Alright, YouTube. Let's try this again. Come on. Give me something. Are we live? We're live. Alright. Well, hello and welcome back to our Through the Bible series in our brand new location. Now that we are moved upstairs, we are officially connected via Ethernet. Ah, man. So I had to move my whole setup from downstairs to upstairs because that's where our router is. And, well, now we're doing our live stream from the master bedroom instead of the living room. So you'll get a little more peek behind the curtain. Please ignore that bag of McDonald's right there. Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. But you get to see some fun stuff like our TV and an air purifier and a fan and my guitar back here. My electric, at least. But anyway, we are jumping in today, attempt number 2 at Genesis 12 to 14. We were cut off very early in our stream last time because of internet issues, so we're going to try again today, kicking it off with Genesis 12. The Lord had said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram went, as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. Abram traveled through the land as far as the site of the great tree of Moreh at Shechem. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there he went on towards the hills east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord. Then Abram set out and continued toward Negev. What's going to be really important as we look through these passages is noting where people are moving. And we got to remember when Adam and Eve left the Garden of Eden, they moved to the east. And anytime we see someone moving towards the east in Old Testament, it's typically a callback to the Garden of Eden and moving farther away from the presence of the Lord. So it's interesting because God says to Abram, "I'm going to give you this land." And then the next thing that he does is he went to the hills east of Bethel. And we'll see a little bit more there. So he's almost there, but he's just slightly skewed, a little bit off. Abram in Egypt. Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while because the famine was severe. As he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, "I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' Then they will kill me, but will let you live. Say you are my sister, so that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you." When Abram came to Egypt, the Egyptians saw that Sarai was a very beautiful woman, and when Pharaoh's officials saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh, and she was taken into his palace. He treated Abram well for her sake, and Abram acquired sheep and cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female servants, and camels. But the Lord inflicted serious diseases on Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife Sarai. So Pharaoh summoned Abram. "What have you done to me?" he said. "Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister, so that I took her to be my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go." Then Pharaoh gave orders about Abram to his men, and they sent him on his way with his wife and everything he had. Now, this is, I'm trying not to say interesting, but this is what we're talking about, right? Abraham moves a little bit to the east, just slightly, and Abraham is now telling some white lies in Egypt. It's not like a full sort of downfall of Abraham, but he's starting to get off the path a little bit when he's going down into Egypt. Now, Pharaoh is also a really insightful dude. It doesn't say that anyone told Pharaoh about this, but the Lord inflicted serious diseases on Pharaoh, and the first thing he does is say, "What have you done? This is your wife. Why didn't you tell me that?" How did that happen? I don't know. But it's not the crucial piece to the story. We're setting up a little bit of Abram's character here. He's a little bit afraid. Let's keep moving forward into Genesis 13. Let's see what he's going to do next. Abram and Lot separate. So Abram went up from Egypt to the Negev with his wife and everything he had, and Lot went with him. Abram went up from Egypt to the Negev with his wife and everything he had, and Lot went with him. Abram had become very wealthy in livestock and silver and gold. From the Negev, he went from place to place until he came to Bethel, to the place between Bethel and Ai where his tent had been earlier, and where he had first built an altar. There Abram called on the name of the Lord. Now see, he's coming back full circle. He's almost there again, just slightly east. Now Lot, who was moving about with Abraham, also had flocks and herds and tents. But the land could not support them while they stayed together, for their possessions were so great that they were not able to stay together. And quarreling arose between Abram's herders and Lot's. The Canaanites and Perizzites were also living in the land at the time. See, still some conflict, right? Little family squabble going on here. So Abram said to Lot, "Let's not have any quarreling between you and me, or between your herders and mine, for we are close relatives. Is not the whole land before you? Let's part company. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left." So Lot looked around and saw that the whole plain of Jordan towards Zoar was well watered, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Important detail to note for later. So Lot chose for himself the whole plain of the Jordan and set out toward the east. Again, towards the east. He's going further. Abram's just slightly off. Lot, he's going east. Let's see. The two men parted company. Abram lived in the land of Canaan, right where God said, "I will give this land to your descendants," while Lot lived among the cities of the plain and pitched his tents near Sodom, which is not known for being the best city. Now the people of Sodom were wicked and were sinning greatly against the Lord. See, right there. The Lord said to Abram after Lot had parted from him, "Look around from where you are, to the north and south, to the east and west. All of the land that you see I will give to you and your offspring forever. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust, then your offspring could be counted. Go, walk through the length and breadth of the land, for I am giving it to you." So Abram went to live near the great trees of Mamre at Hebron, where he pitched his tents. Then he built an altar to the Lord. See, God is reiterating these promises. He's reminding him, despite these hiccups, he's continuing to draw Abram closer to him in this land. And now Abram is continuing to reciprocate this. Humans in the Bible tend to have a pretty short memory when it comes to the things that God has done. So it's not surprising to me here that God is constantly reminding Abram of this blessing. Okay, chapter 14, Abram rescues Lot. At the time when Amraphel was king of Shinar, which is a little footnote here, that is Babylonia, Arioch, king of Elasar, Kedor Laomer, Kedo Laomer. This is a tough one. Kedo Laomer, king of Elam, and title king of Goyim, These kings went to war against Bera, king of Sodom, Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar. All these latter kings joined forces in the valley of Siddim, that is the Dead Sea Valley. For 12 years they had been subject to Kedorlaomer. But in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Kedorlaomer and the kings allied with him went out and defeated the Rephaites, there we go, in Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Zuzites in Ham, the Emites in Shaveh Kiriathaim, and the Horites in the hill country of Seir, as far as El Paran near the desert. Then they turned back and went to Mishpat, there we go, that is Kadesh, and they conquered the whole territory of the Amalekites, as well as the Amorites, who were living in the Hazazon Tamar. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar, marched out and drew up their battle lines in the valley of Siddim against Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, title king of Goim, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar. 4 kings against 5. Pretty even. Now the valley of Siddim was full of tar pits, and when the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some of the men fell into them, and the rest fled to the hills. The 4 kings seized all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their food, then they went away. They also carried off Abram's nephew Lot and his possessions, since he was living in Sodom. A man who had escaped came and reported this to Abram the Hebrew. Now Abram was living near the great trees of Mamre, the Amorites, a brother of Eshcol and Aner, all of whom were allied with Abram. Brother is a relative or an ally. When Abram heard that his relative had been taken captive, he called out the 318 trained men born in his household and went in pursuit as far as Dan. Get some water here. During the night, Abram divided his men to attack them, and he routed them, pursuing them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus. He recovered all the goods and brought back his relative Lot and his possessions, together with the woman and the other people. After Abram returned from defeating Kedorlaomer and the kings allied with him, the king of Sodom came out to meet him in the valley of Shaveh, that is the king's valley. Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High, and he blessed Abram, saying, "Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and praise be to God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hand." Then Abram gave him 1/10 of everything. The king of Sodom said to Abram, "Give me the people and keep the goods for yourself." But Abram said to the king of Sodom, "With raised hand I have sworn an oath to the Lord God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, that I will accept nothing belonging to you, not even a thread or strap of a sandal, so that you will never be able to say, 'I made Abram rich.' I will accept nothing but what my men have eaten, and the share that belongs to the men who went with me, to Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them have their share." So we see that Lot moving to the east. He's gotten mixed up in this conflict. 4 kings versus 5. Very close. And then Abram kind of becomes this swing vote, so to speak, to end this conflict, rescue his nephew. And then he actually meets Melchizedek, who is king of Salem. He comes up almost out of nowhere, and he is a priest of God Most High, same as Abram, or same God as Abram. So he gives him this blessing, and then as Abram begins to interact with Sodom, we see where he's a little bit different from Lot. Lot goes and he lives right next to this wicked city, Sodom. But Abram says to the king of Sodom, I don't want to buy what you're selling. I don't even want technically what you're offering to me for free, because then you could claim bragging rights to say I'm the one responsible for Abram's riches, when really it is the God Most High that is responsible. So that brings us to the end of chapter 14, but just checking on the stream here, I think we have only been going for a short time. 15 minutes. So I'm going to keep going because the story of Lot is actually really interesting. We see in Genesis 15 the repetition again of the Lord's covenant with Abram. After this, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, what can you give me, since I remain childless, and the one who will inherit my estates is Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir. Then the word of the Lord came to him. This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir. He took him outside and said, Look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. Then he said to him, So shall your offspring be. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. He also said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to take possession of it. But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, how can I know that I will gain possession of it? So the Lord said to him, Bring me a heifer, a goat, and a ram, each 3 years old, along with a dove and a young pigeon. Abram brought all these to him, cut them in two, and arranged the halves opposite each other. The birds, however, he did not cut in half. Then birds of prey came down on the carcasses, but Abram drove them away. A little bit interesting here. Wonder what's going on. As the sun was setting, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and a thick and dreadful darkness came over him. Then the Lord said to him, Know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and that they will be enslaved and mistreated there. But I will punish the nation they serve as slaves, and afterward they will come out with great possessions. You, however, will go to your ancestors in peace and be buried at a good old age. In the 4th generation your descendants will come back here, for the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. So we're getting a little bit of a peek behind the curtain for Abram. I believe this is a nod forward to the events of the book of Exodus, where the Egyptians will be ruling over the people of Israel. When the sun had set and darkness had fallen, when the sun had set and darkness had fallen, a smoking firepot with a blazing torch appeared and passed between the places. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram and said, To your descendants I give this land from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, Hittites, Perizzites, Rephaites, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites. Another reminder to Abram here. Going into 16. We see a little bit of doubt from Abram in that passage. He's trying to maybe come up with his own solution. God's reiterating his promises to him, even moves his analogy from dust to stars, and now shows him this vision. Abram makes a sacrifice. And yet, in verse 16, Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. So she said to Abram, The Lord has kept me from having children. Go, sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her. Common practice at the time. Also, not what God asked Abram to do. He actually suggested this, and God said, whoa, hold on. No, you have something coming. Don't worry, just be patient. But is Abram being patient? No! Abram agreed to what Sarai said. So after Abram had been living in Canaan 10 years, Sarai, his wife, took her Egyptian slave Hagar and gave her to her husband to be his wife. He slept with Hagar, and she conceived. When she knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. Then Sarai said to Abram, "You are responsible for the wrong I am suffering. I put my slave in your arms, and now that she knows she is pregnant, she despises me. May the Lord judge between you and me." Things are kind of heating up in Abram and Sarai's household a little bit. This is kind of what happens when you suggest that your husband go sleep with someone else. It's probably not going to turn out well. All right. A slave, nonetheless. So she probably didn't have much of a choice in the matter, knowing that these are her owners. Of course, just because slavery happens in the Bible does not mean that slavery is condoned in the Bible. It's an important side note there. Verse 6. "Your slave is in your hands," Abram said. "Do with her whatever you think best." Then Sarai mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. The angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was the spring that is beside the road to Shur. And he said, "Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going?" "I'm running away from my mistress Sarai," she answered. Then the angel of the Lord told her, "Go back to your mistress and submit to her." The angel added, "I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count." The angel of the Lord also said to her, "You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility toward all of his brothers." She gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her, "You are the God who sees me." For she said, "I have now seen the one who sees me." That is why the well was called Bir Lahai Roi. It is still there between Kadesh and Bered. That means, living one who sees me. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram gave the name Ishmael to the son she had born. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, "I am God Almighty. Walk before me faithfully and be blameless. Then I will make my covenant between me and you, and you will greatly increase your numbers." Interesting. God is still appearing to him, is honoring Hagar in the process. In return, he receives this name, the God who sees, someone in such a low societal position at this point. And even though Abram has tried to take things into his own hands, God is still wanting to honor this covenant. Abraham is like the king of second chances, the king of reminders of this covenant. Abram fell face down, and God said to him, "As for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations." Abram means exalted father. Doesn't exactly line up with his actions, in my opinion. Abraham means father of many. You were an exalted father. Now you're just going to be a father of many. We see that Abram, now named Abraham, he's screwed up a little bit. And so, hey, you are not going to be the exalted father, but you will still be the father of many nations. I still have a place in my plan for you. I will make you very fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings will come from you. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you for the generations to come, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you. The whole land of Canaan, where you now reside as a foreigner, I will give as an everlasting possession to you and your descendants after you, and I will be their God. Then God said to Abraham, "As for you, you must keep my covenant." Important note there. "You and your descendants after you for the generations to come. This is my covenant with you and your descendants after you, the covenant you are to keep. Here now we get an addendum. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You are to undergo circumcision, and it will be sign of the covenant between me and you. Ooh, fun stuff. Taking a knife and snip, 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 snip for the guys. It will be a sign of the covenant between Abraham's family and God. For the generations to come, every male among you who is 8 days old must be circumcised, including those born in your household or bought with money from a foreigner, and those who are not your offspring. Whether born in your household or bought with your money, they must be circumcised. Whew. My covenant in your flesh is to be an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who has not been circumcised in the flesh, you will be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. That's interesting. Abraham has a kind of a rocky start, right? I'm going to raise my chair here. All right. Abraham has kind of a rocky start here, but really where he goes off the deep end in breaking this covenant is where God says, I am going to make you the father of many nations. You have many descendants. Abraham takes it into his own hands and sticks it in. God now says, all right, snip, snip, Abraham. Your time has come. Every time you look at that thing, you're going to remember this covenant that I told you will have a son. What a reminder. Oh my gosh. God also said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you are no longer to call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. I will bless her and will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her. So Abraham fell face down. He laughed and said to himself, will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? And Abraham said to God, if only Ishmael might live under your blessing. He's still vouching for his son. That's good. But hey, you messed up, right? God says yes, but your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. Abraham's like, do I have to do this? Is this worth having a son? I already have a son. Isn't he good enough for this blessing? Yes, Ishmael will be blessed, but Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. Isaac means he laughs. Abraham laughs. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I will surely bless him. I will make him fruitful and will greatly increase his numbers. He will be the father of 12 rulers, and I will make him into a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you by this time next year. When he had finished speaking with Abraham, God went up from him. So Ishmael, hey, despite your shortcomings, Abraham, I'm still going to take care of him. But Isaac is still the plan. You're the one who deviated from the plan. We're not going that direction. Isaac is where this line is going to start. On that very day, Abraham took his son Ishmael and all those born in his household or bought with his money, every male in his household, and circumcised them as God told him. Whew! Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised, and his son Ishmael was 13. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. Abraham and his son Ishmael were both circumcised on that very day, and every male in Abraham's household, including those born in his household or bought from a foreigner, was circumcised with him. Hell of a note to end on, but that's where we are going to end for today. That's Genesis 12 through 17, which if my math is right, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 6 chapters, which is more than we usually do, but we were off for a couple weeks, so that's okay. But a couple of questions that I want to ask at the end of every video. First, what does this tell us about God? Obviously, God is still going to be honoring this covenant with Abraham, even though Abraham has screwed up time and time again. And so God is much more patient than Abraham is, and God is still looking at the big picture, where Abraham is kind of a little narrow-minded. The second thing, what does this say about people? I think Abraham really shows us people are impatient. And especially when we look at the relationship between Abraham and Sarah and Hagar. Am I getting her name right? I don't want to get that wrong. Yeah, Hagar. Okay. It's those important things, like the names of people, that I really don't want to get wrong. All right. So what this says about people, especially when we look at the relationship between Abraham and Sarah and Hagar, is that people can be very short-sighted. They don't look at the big picture. I should say we don't look at the big picture. We can get really impatient, and we try to take matters into our own hands. And what this does here is takes advantage of and abuses a slave in their household, which, without going so deep into the issue of slavery in the Bible, is going to be abusive nonetheless. Even if she was not a slave, this would be abusive. And if you are taking into consideration all of the cultural context, this is no way to be treating another person, slave or not. And so our third question, if we believe that this passage is true, then how does it apply to us personally? Man, patience. That's the number one thing I see here. And trust in God. God repeats himself so many times, almost once per chapter. God is repeating himself. I think at least 3 that are coming to mind, but maybe in editing I'll put a number here if that is incorrect. But man, God is just repeating and repeating and repeating, and yet Abraham still forgets and loses focus. That's a better way of saying it. More than forgetting, he loses focus and he takes control. And so for me, man, I don't want to lose focus. So let me know down below, what does this say about God? What does this say about people? And if we believe that it's true, how does it apply to us personally? So I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you're watching back on the recording, we have some more content for you right here. Thanks.